All right, man, oh man, are we doing this? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Look at this. All right, okay, I guess we are doing it. Well, if you like the craziness we're about to embark on, then please like and subscribe. And I recommend that you hit the subscribe button. And if you don't like it later on, you can always unsubscribe, but you won't forget if you do it now. And I certainly would appreciate it. The channel is growing, and it's all thanks to people like you who like and subscribe. And if you can, certainly like the patrons who support the channel are super appreciated. I try to give them the good shout out at the end of every video, and certainly much appreciated. And with all this support and the channel growing, to commemorate it, I am, yeah, I don't know. What can I say? I just feel like I want to explore. I want to feel what it's like to channel the powers of green again. While green is definitely the most underappreciated color in the MHayashi color pie, um, and unfortunately I used to have a mono green infect deck, and while I feel like I made some certain adjustments to infect that were to my liking, there's just so much removal and so much blood moon. Ironically, my Obosh deck is a good example of why I don't feel you can play effect anymore. My Obosh deck just hammers a mono green infect too badly. Like, we don't necessarily play moon effects anymore, but with so many strip mines, like our Inkmoth Nexi are never really gonna do anything. So I don't know. Like, at the end of the day, so instead what we're gonna do is we're gonna apply the 8-field formula to mono green. Yeah, I said it. To mono green. Like, what on earth? What on earth are we even thinking? But yeah, we are gonna try it. And okay, basically Blast Zone, Demolition Field, Field of Ruin. That's pretty standard in my decks at this point. They function the same as the other decks. Lair of the Hydra. We do gain access to this when we're in green. I actually think this is one of the better mana lands because it's just so flexible. We can hit in with whatever we can afford to pump into it. And what's very relevant is when we get flooded, this can get very massive. I think this is a underappreciated version of the man lands. Oh yeah, and also by the way, it can turn into a 1/1 for to enable Lovestruck Beast to attack, which is not irrelevant at all. But the fact that this can both be a 1/1 but also be much bigger, it's definitely super appreciated. And kind of the core. So basically the core concept of this deck, main deck Relic, it does the same thing as other decks we've seen. Mazemind Tome, because look, we're playing mid-range. Green doesn't really have much card advantage like itself. So Mazemind Tome it is, and it gains life, and like it was so good in the mono white deck as well as the mono red deck, we might as well play it here too. I mean, it works. I don't know what else to say, folks. But the gist of the deck, okay, is like okay, and as you can see, it's got the dollar sign. So this is a budget deck. I didn't want and I don't want necessarily to sink more tickets into this because I don't, in all fairness, I just don't think this card is necessarily like a meta killer or anything. It's just if you really have been itching to play green again, like I have, this could give you an opportunity to feel a really strange, unique green kind of mid-range experience that, I mean, it's just, we just don't really see. And maybe for good reason. Like the main issue with this deck, if there is one, I would say, is not so much that I was actually quite surprised when I was testing it that the deck had legs to stand on. I mean, I got crushed in the beginning when I didn't know what I was doing, like when I didn't know the right kind of cards. Like, for example, I didn't have Mazemind Tome in the beginning. What was I thinking? I didn't have Walking Ballista in the beginning, which I don't think I need to say much more Walking Ballista, but it's, I mean, I'm playing green and I don't really have that much removal. So once I realized, hey, Walking Ballista, plus it also takes advantage of being able to have so much extra mana from the Llanowar Elves. I'm like, yeah, Walking Ballista, and which by the way came down in price a lot too. So sign me up. I think this card single-handedly helps enormously. So I started figuring out little by little, like, yeah. And then suddenly the deck had legs to stand on. I just don't know that this necessarily really gives us access to that much that we don't have in the other colors, specifically white. I think the biggest knock against this deck is I think you can make the argument it's kind of just a worse version of the mono white deck. There's not necessarily a lot this does that the mono white doesn't do. I will say one thing it does though, it does have the potential to kill quicker, and that's going to get into my first point here. What I like about the deck, and Dismember, of course. I mean, single-handedly one of the best cards in the deck, and it's not even green. But hey, we need removal, and this is the best mono green has to offer because it's it's Dismember. It's also nice that we have so much life gain between Tome and Corsair that we can recoup the life loss. We don't have any room for black in the main deck because yeah, whatever, we so few. We already have the minimum number of lands as it is. But yeah, like what this deck does do, I guess the mono white deck doesn't. And I mean, for that matter, I guess any of my other mid-range decks is it actually does have the ability to close out games. I think quicker. I think this. Let's see, white, black, red, blue. This does actually have the potential to be the fastest mid-range deck I have. I mean, I'm not super convinced that this deck still has any really substantial chance of being better than those other decks. But like, it is worth noting that like Lovestruck Beast here, for example, it's quite a beef stick at 5 5 power and toughness for 3 mana. Now, obviously Tarmogoyf, but Tarmogoyf doesn't synergize with Relic, and here we can play Relic main deck, and Relic is such a great card. So even there, like even though we're like a budget deck per se, like the reality is the deck has certain synergies that ironically you don't find with the sort of standard cards like Tarmogoyf instead of Lovestruck Beast, for example. Um, and whatever other graveyard hate that doesn't interfere with your own graveyard, which Relic is usually just better. But the thing I like the most about Lovestruck Beast is that it really just kind of synergizes with the fact that we're playing Elvish Mystic and Llanowar Elves rather than like say the Noble Hierarch and the Ignoble Hierarch or what's it called or the new Delighted Halfling or whatever, which we don't even have any legendary creature to really take advantage of or permanent. Um, yeah, and like here's the thing, these cards, I mean they're dirt cheap. These are like a penny a piece, but these cards really still do pack a lot of power potentially. Like if these don't get dealt with, and I don't know, and I think the fact that these die to Ren and 6 is a little overrated. I mean they do, but I don't think it's as backbreaking as people think because Ren still has to tick down to kill it, and that means they don't go up on loyalty and they don't put a land from their hand into their graveyard into their hand. So we could potentially, well, we definitely have to rely on the sideboard. Well, the relic can, yeah, whatever. You know what? Maybe this isn't the best argument for this deck because unlike some other decks, we can't really take care of the Ren and 6. In general, though, I think it's a little overstated the down tick because it puts it in bolt range, but of course we don't have bolt here. But whatever the case may be, what I like is that these cards, they're just the most budget friendly, just wonderful little mana accelerants that help us, power out our deck faster. And Lovestruck Beast just turns what would have otherwise been a kind of a disadvantage in the fact that these are like the Ignoble and the Noble Hierarch just kind of have more utility, and we're not really playing. We don't really need the other colors anyway. So like, but they still just have like Exalted. But like Lovestruck Beast basically sidesteps that issue, the fact that the Noble and the Ignoble Hierarch, kind of have more utility. And it takes advantage of the fact that Elvish Mystic and Llanowar Elves are like 1/1s. So this card falls in love with them, I guess. It's weird, but this card manages to take advantage of that fact and kind of rewards us. And at the end of the day, there's just not many other green creatures that I'm particularly tempted to play. I do kind of want at least some big beat sticks, if that makes sense. And I just like Lovestruck Beast, also because it's kind of like card advantage. What I also want out of a card, in this slot is I'm kind of looking for something that can at least put up a roadblock to Ragavan. So if they have to use a removal spell, at least maybe they tie up their mana a little bit. Like, a lot of times they do have the ability to clear the path of Ragavan, but the last thing I want to do is just play a land past and not be able to at least threaten interaction with Ragavan. So, I mean, just, creating the 1/1 white human token just as a potential chump blocker to Ragavan. I'm in. Like I gotta take what I can, and the fact that this is a potentially big beat stick on the other end is just it's just icing on the cake. I feel like this card does what I want it to do. I don't know what else to say. It's a giant beat stick. And it's also a potential chump blocker for Ragavan. I mean, I guess these can chump block Ragavan too, but that's not where you want to be usually. I think most of the time it's going to be correct to just let Ragavan pass and then try to accelerate from there. But anyway, yeah, Lovestruck Beast is what it is, and I like it. Corsair of Kruphix. Yeah, so this is an interesting card. So actually, this card used to start off as a, I don't know if we can see it here, but so there's a 3-mana 2/3 creature, snake creature, I think, that lets you play lands from your graveyard. And at first, this card started off as that card because I was thinking, oh man, I get to like rebuy my Demolition Fields and my Blast Fields indefinitely. Like maybe this actually is a pretty cool. I was actually thinking maybe this is what mono green brings to the table because it's basically Crucible Worlds, but it's a creature, so that means, at worst case scenario, it can still attack and block. I mean, I don't know. Like at the end of the day, I wasn't so hot on Crucible of Worlds when I played it, and it kind of suffered from a similar problem here. It's just the main issue, okay, that I find is number one, it gets bolted, which obviously isn't an issue Crucible of Worlds has, but like that Cobra thing that has three toughness, they lightning bolt it, and then like ideally what we want to do is we want to power out a 3-drop on turn 2 with these cards, right? I mean that's kind of what these cards do best. That's their shtick. You get to play a 3-drop on turn 2. That Cobra thingy was just not where we wanted to be, because if we play it on turn 3, there's no land we can return from our graveyard. We used our land drop for the turn anyway to cast it. So even if there was a land in our graveyard, somehow we still couldn't return it. And on top of that, it just dies to Lightning Bolt. So that's a very underwhelming turn 3. So what we end up having to do with that Cobra card is we end up having to set up for putting a land in our graveyard. So we have to like take a turn off or something to Field or Ruin or Blast Zone or something, which, I mean, that has its utility, but sometimes we just want to power out the creature. So like we have to end up taking a turn off that we don't have to with Corsair, for example. So that's the first knock against it. Oh, and I also forgot to say it's pretty sweet that we can turn to Field or Ruin or Demolition Field against Tron. But of course we could do that with Ragavan, but we don't even have to connect. But anyway, so yeah, what Corsair does, what I found out is Corsair is kind of yeah, at the end of the day, there's only kind of one matchup really, maybe two. Yeah, there's kind of only really one matchup where I think that Cobra card that allows us to play lands over graveyard is superior, and that's Mono Green Tron specifically, because yeah, because like against even creativity, they can just lightning bolt it, the 2/3 that plays lands out of our graveyard. Like Tron doesn't play lightning bolt, so I guess like it is true against Tron, that's pretty big game. But like against almost every other matchup, having an extra toughness, so this doesn't die to lightning bolt, and therefore also, since it's 3, it's a little harder for the opponent to set up a fatal push. It just this is just a much better card to dump out on turn 3 because it's a lot more resilient because of that one extra toughness. So suddenly it feels like I have a legit turn 3 play. In addition to Lovestruck Beast, sometimes actually we just want to power out a Lovestruck Beast on turn 2 without using the Heart's Desire sorcery. That is something to consider, especially if the opponent looks like they're playing a deck where we just need to beat face quickly. But in any case, Corsair gives us another 3-drop, and one that we don't have to make that decision of whether to get the Heart's Desire out first before playing the Lovestruck Beast. This card we can just play out on 3, on turn 2, and it's fairly resilient. And another thing I like too is that there's no universe in which I'm not playing Dismember main deck. And that's another thing too. This deck, like when I started off, I wasn't playing Dismember main deck, but I had it in the sideboard, and I was literally just bringing in Dismember every single game. Um, and Yeah, and I was just losing game ones that I might have actually had a chance to win because I didn't have Dismember in it. So like, yeah, so that's the thing. The definitely, it's not like these decks just come out, like fully formed like Venus in the half shell. It's like there is a lot of trial and error. Oh yeah, and if you're wondering why Dismember was in the sideboard originally, actually this deck started off as a Umori deck because my thinking was that green has good creatures, but not so good instants and sorceries. But my thinking was maybe the creatures are good enough, and maybe with these kind of fighting creatures, which I'll get into a little later. Um, well, I guess I'll get to next. My thinking was, maybe I can actually pull this off where I can have just like a pure creature deck and have enough utility somehow. No, you don't. It was an interesting idea. Plus, Umori just literally was just a 4/5 for the most part because by the time it came down, having to put 3 mana into play, the ramp just didn't really serve much purpose. So like, I don't know, warping my deck to play like a vanilla 4/5 for the most part. I don't know, it just wasn't really. It wasn't in it, but it did get me to build the deck. I probably wouldn't have built the deck if I didn't have this idea of tying it all together with Umori. But interesting enough, this idea of Lovestruck Beast came together as well, like Umori and Lovestruck Beast, because because of the Elvish Mystic and whatnot. And for me, that's a good enough glue to hold the deck together anyway. But yeah, one thing I like about Corsair of Kruphix is there's just no universe in which I don't play Dismember main deck, and the fact that, well, except for that universe where I was losing a lot, I guess there is that universe, but there's no universe in which I actually start winning and I'm not playing Dismember in the main deck. And, again, like I said earlier, I just don't think playing, Bland's Attack for black is worth losing Lair of the Hydra. This is one of the draws to playing green in the first place, in my opinion, so like, I'm just not. Plus, we can't skim on more forests. I don't want to skim on the 8 fields because that's another one of the shticks of the deck is the 8 fields. And oh yeah, another thing about the 8 fields with Corsair too is that If we don't like the top of our library, we can actually kind of manipulate the top card of our library using the Field of Ruins, which is pretty sweet in my opinion. Um, oh yeah, we can also like draw cards with either Relic or Mazemind to maybe put a land on top if it wasn't already. If there's a non-land on top, we draw a card, maybe a land does go on top. There's pretty cool synergies with Corsair, and I really do like it. Plus, it gains 2 life, obviously, if you drop a field and then crack it and then get another land puts into play. It's always sweet. Yeah, Corsair, I really like it, and like I was trying to say earlier, I don't think we actually need the black mana because this deck does have the ability to gain life, both with Corsair and Mazemind. If it was just Mazemind, maybe that wouldn't be enough, but Corsair also, the tacked on life gain, we may or may not see against a certain matchup, Cough Burn, but like even just gaining 1 extra life per turn, possibly 2 with the Field of Ruins, it adds up, and plus it's a good blocker, and this is such an innocuous looking card. But what can I say? This turned out to be, I felt like, better than the card that allowed me to play cards from my graveyard. It just did. I could go back to the other card, but I'm fairly sold for now that I think this is where we want to be. It's a very solid green card. I think kind of underappreciated. I mean, the Scapeship players play it from time to time, and they certainly show it some love. But even I wonder if they appreciate it as much as we do. We appreciate you. In any case, let's get to the next card, which is Voracious Hydra. So, okay, not gonna lie, this card started off as, I think, Wicked Wolf. Let me see if I still have that card in my collection. Yeah, so this actually started off, well, actually, I started off with both Wicked Wolf and this card. Um, I actually had Gilded Goose in the beginning for food production, which could make the wolf better. But like at the end of the day, I don't think Walking Ballista was in the initial build. So like eventually I figured out Walking Ballista is kind of just better than like these fighting creatures for the most part. And like man, this card, if you have a good, like if you're actually playing a food deck, I think this card is kind of low key, not busted, but low key like really good actually. The issue I had is that there just wasn't much I wanted to do with food other than Gilded Goose, and Gilded Goose is just overall just kind of worse than the Elvish Mystic and Llanowar Elves, and it was just kind of awkward like having to play these as a package because it didn't really make much sense to me to play one or the other if I didn't play the other. And at a certain point, I'm just like the deck's just kind of better if I don't play both of these cards, which are kind of underwhelming by themselves and only really kind of stand out with each other. It is what it is, but the side effect is I also, when I was searching for cards that like came into play and fought, I'm like, hey, Voracious Hydra. This card, it looks more innocuous. My first instinct was that this was probably just a worse version of Wicked Wolf because, the only time you deal more damage is when you pay more than 4 mana into it. And when are you going to do that? But more than you might think, actually, because when you start playing, like, especially multiple Elvish Mystics and stuff, suddenly this card can actually deal way more damage than Wolf could, even if you do start getting a few food tokens. If you can even dish out like 4 damage, like if you can, or not 4 damage, if you can dish out 3 damage for like if you can pump 5 mana into this thing, 3 mana into X and then 2 for the green, then you actually do sidestep the lightning bolt issue. The worst thing that can happen with these fight creatures is they come into play, and while the fight triggers on the stack, they lightning bolt them, and then the creature dies before it can even fight. So and then yeah, and you just pumped a bunch of mana and you just get killed by a lightning bolt. What this enables us to do is yeah, if we pump enough mana, then it's out of lightning bolt range. Unfortunately, it's still within fatal push range, but there's nothing we can do about that. But one of the things I really like about this too is that you can also just be a big creature if we want it to be too. It's good if we want some fighting utility, and it's also good if we just want to pump a lot of mana into a big creature. It's kind of like a bizarro version of Walking Ballista that's also usually not as good, but in some cases sometimes better. I don't know what else to say other than that. I've been impressed. I've been impressed with it. As long as like yeah, since I'm not playing Wicked Wolf, I think this card is surprisingly solid. You can even pay 3 mana and fight something for 1 mana. I think in the past, I think I have fought a DRC for 1 minute, I mean, hey, a 3 mana, 1/2 that dings a a DRC if they're like tapped out or something. Hey, sometimes, there is surprising value to be had. I don't know what else to say. Uh, okay, I think the sideboard is where it gets really spicy. Oh wait a minute, this is not the right card. What is it? It's supposed to be Ratchet Bomb. Yeah, the sideboard is where it gets spicy. This might be a spoiler alert, but I actually I think the Stone Brain. Yeah, in this match we're playing Ratchet Bomb, but the Stone Brain is something that I'm like maybe we should be having access to. Although I think I'd probably be more inclined to take out the lanterns. I don't know that we need um, 8 graveyard effects. Um, my thinking at the time was we have such a piss poor living end matchup, but the Stonebrains can kind of do double duty against that matchup anyway. So, but anyway, for this league we ran this through. But yeah, you know, we're playing mono green, so it's not like we have a lot of hate against combo. So I thought we might as well like really hate on the graveyard based combo and graveyard based things. But anyway, yeah, Lantern, just more relic effects, not really much to say there. Ratchet Bombs and Filigree Sylex, same as the other decks that play them in the past. You know, literally nothing else for me to add. They do exactly what they do in the other colors. But here there's an extra premium where we have the least amount of creature removal of any color. So sometimes this is just kind of jank creature removal when we need it. Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, we arguably don't need this as much as in the other mid-range decks because maybe we can get them with Lovestruck Beast. But if they just like get Revolt and Fatal Push this or something, or Murderous Cut, or Drown in the Lock, like they still have answers to this. And like at the end of the day, it's not so hard for the mill deck to just kind of kill some of our big creatures and just kind of like put us in a situation where they're milling us before we're killing them. I still think that mill is just a pretty bad matchup, so you know. And oh yeah, another thing cool about this deck is we end up generating so much mana between playing extra lands off the top of our library with Corsair, which by the way, the main thing is that pushes them out of the way, so then you draw the non-land. So it's not like this only puts you up lands. It also helps you draw into business as well, but you do end up seeing more lands than you otherwise would, as well, of course. But with extra lands through Corsair, and with extra mana sometimes if they don't deal with them with the Elvish Mystic and the Llanowar Elves, it's not unheard of. I think this, out of all the decks, this is one of the decks where we probably hit 10 mana both the earliest and more consistently probably than any other deck. In fact, flooding is actually one of the biggest issues with the deck. That's neither here nor there. I mean, at least we have like these 2 cards that we can pump obscene amount of mana into to somewhat reward ourselves from flooding. So there is that. Oh yeah, and Lair, can't forget that. But yeah, Kozilek can join the fray in certain matchups. I think it's justifiable. The thing I just really like about Kozilek, I'll say again, is just that it's just that it's good against mill, but it has hypothetical application elsewhere, and I just really like that. In any case, yeah, we got our basic swamp here. So the reason why the basic swamp here, yes, it helps mitigate the damage from Dismember somewhat, but that's not the main reason this is in here. The main reason is Tear Asunder. So I was looking for green cards that exile the One Ring. Of course, there was Haywire Might, and in the beginning I had Haywire Might, but what I didn't like about Haywire Might is that like it doesn't hit artifact creatures or enchantment creatures like Riderless and Growth. And since we're so low on creature removal, I just thought like I didn't like missing out on the ability to hit artifact creatures or enchantment creatures when we already are kind of starved for creature removal to begin with. So I did a search through MTGO with even the cards I didn't have in my collection, looking for green cards that exile artifacts and enchantments. But to my surprise, I found a 2-mana instant that is just straight up better than Naturalize for the most part in exiles. But it was this kicker that really intrigued me because I'm like, hey, this card can also one-shot a Murktide? Really? This card can also one-shot Planeswalkers, which also can be kind of a problem. I'm like, suddenly, I'm like, maybe this deck. Funny enough, this card out of the sideboard made me actually think maybe this deck actually has some potential, because I thought if I just play a basic swamp in the sideboard, which we can fetch with the Field of Ruins and the Demolition Fields, I'm like, this solves, like, we can be a little weak to Planeswalkers. This can one-shot a Planeswalker. This is non-land permanent. This can one-shot things like Murktide, which otherwise Dismember and stuff have a hard time, or we have to pump so much mana into Hydra, it's ridiculous. I mean, this potentially can deal with just a lot. Oh, it also deals, you know, with Urza Saga as early as turn 2, which is also sweet. I'm just like, this is just so surprisingly good and requires the lightest of light black splashes, since it can even be played early as just green without requiring black. Like, this is literally the perfect, like unlike with Haywire Might, where I feel like to some extent it compels us to play a Copperline Gorge, which I don't know, we don't need the red, but you know, in the red deck, Copperline Gorge, because in order to actually get the exile artifact or enchantment non-creature version as soon as possible, you know, we would need green mana as early as possible. But this we get the earlier half as soon as turn 2 without even having to have another creature, or not having to have access to black. But then the only time we really need black is turn 4 or later, and yeah, and here's the and so by the time it shouldn't. In other words, what I'm trying to say is, like, literally we can play black solely out of the sideboard, and I think this card just does quite a bit for It shores up a lot of the problems. Does it solve them completely? No, I'm not saying that by any stretch of imagination. And it hits the One Ring. Maybe I should have led with that. I'm searching for effects that exile, obviously because we are now living in the shadow of the One Ring. But honestly, I think even if the One Ring hypothetically were to get banned, I think ironically, I'm kind of glad that it forced me to search for something like this, because I think this card is probably going to way outlive, for me, the One Ring meta if I even play this deck that much. But I don't know, like I'm kind of in love with this card, not gonna lie. Yeah, it does a lot. It hits artifacts and enchantments early, it exiles them, and yeah, and for sort of the lightest of light splashes, we can easily get black. Anyway, time to get to the games. I hope you all enjoyed this craziness of mono green. All right, let's see if we get destroyed. Let's see if we get to actually, show that we can actually win some games with mono green. We will. All right, let's get started. Match one, and we are on the play. And all right, let's see. Yeah, and you know what? This hand, yeah, I mean, we got a bunch of elves and we got Hydra. This might be one of those matchups where maybe we just create a gigantic Hydra, deal with their key threat. Oh, now we got two of them. And then maybe we just beat face with the Hydras, because oh, and that is the juiciest of juicy Hydra targets. I could play the Mazemind Tome, but I think having a 4/5 Hydra that also killed that very important utility creature seems like a good thing to me. Oh, I think that has to die too. But thankfully we have another Hydra, and now this one can be a 5/6. So yeah, now we got some pretty big beat sticks. Yeah, we're off to a good start. This is where I'm kind of like, maybe this most recent configuration, I'm like, yeah, this is actually not as bad as you might think. And now the Lair of the Hydras are also absolutely gargantuan. And yeah, called it familiar, yeah, but they take like 9 damage. And yeah, so let's see what they do. Play something. Play Samwise. Ooh, and I was a little worried I got comboed right here. I'm like, ooh, do they have the combo? But as it turns out, they just wanted to put the fear of God, so to speak, in me, and they certainly did. I'm like, okay, well, fun's over. But then I guess we're not going to see the victory screen. But it turns out they didn't have it, and they conceded, and we ended up taking it. So while we could have lost if the last card in their hand was a Vistra, this was overall a good showing still. So hey, suddenly you might be seeing that even though this deck is probably not the best of mid-range decks, what other mid-range deck could pump out 4/5 and 5/6 creatures that also removed their creatures and then started beating face? That was not a bad showing. All right. Okie dokie. Let's see how we sideboard in game two. Yeah, I don't think Lovestruck Beast is as important. What was my thinking here? I think my thinking. Oh yeah, I definitely want the Tear Asunder. We may need to contend with early Urza Sagas. We may need to contend with hitting their Witches Ovens or whatever for their Cauldra shenanigans. We may need to contend to paying 4 mana to deal with Samwise or other things. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I felt like yeah, probably having even more removal is probably the way to go. And in that regard, we also play 3 Ratchet Bombs and 1 Sylex as well, and we end up taking out 1 Corsair for the black mana to help accommodate the Tear Asunder. It's possible we should have taken on another Corsair for another Ratchet Bomb. In retrospect, probably, but it's kind of marginal. Relic is kind of a trap because for the most part they're going to have multiple foods, and there's not really going to be many opportunities to really nix that cat from the graveyard. But yeah, this was kind of where we wanted to be. And well, we have mana. We have a surprising amount of removal for a mono green deck. So yeah, and then we even draw a Elvish Mystic for pretty much the ideal turn 1 start. There's Samwise. Samwise can Gee, and I guess we'll play Mazemind Tome. I think at this point the opponent is like, are we serious here? Are we playing mono green control? And I'm like, oh man. I'm like, yeah, I guess I am. I guess I am. Collected Company, and yeah, this is also where they just have the worst luck in the world. I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's it's okay. You're entitled to not be in the best mood because I would be too when I collected company into one single bird's paradise. Are you kidding me? It's pretty obvious that we want to Walking Ballista. It survives and we can kill it. We can probably use Voracious Hydra on that. We could just wait for a Blast Zone to kill these Gilded Geese. Yeah, they were really depending on that collected company to give them card advantage, and unfortunately, it just didn't come through. So, yeah. Oh, you know what? We just use the Ratchet Bomb for that. Oh, and we have a Blast Zone too. That's another possibility. Yeah, food time. So, alrighty. Yeah, so I think we're going to put this on one. I don't know if we need to necessarily do this just yet. Probably. Yeah, probably just put a counter on this. Do that. Food token. Bam. I think they still put up a good, a good fight, and we have to nix our Elvish Mystic, but I think it's still well worth it. Yeah, they take 2 damage. And the geese are just obviously not the main things they're hoping for. We get to gain 4 life, which is always nice. I may want to start pumping out the Hydras, although I still might play the Sylex first. No, I just play this. That makes sense. This can also allow me to hit a Samwise later on, even instant speed, which is always nice. I'll gain some life, always good. I guess now I start Voracious Hydra. Oh no, I still play Mazemind Tome. Yeah, I guess so. Oh, I still just keep pumping up. I mean, I think this is a valid line as well. There's several different lines we can take, but at the end of the day, they're just like drawing a bunch of air. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we can beat almost any deck if they draw this bad. Needless to say, my opponent was not having a good time, and I can't blame him. Alrighty. And thankfully, we have a lot of mono green removal here, so we'll start Voracious Hydra. I mean, why not? Kept 1 mana up for Dismember just in case. I don't think I've ever seen a 4/5 and a 5/6 is like that. Oh yeah, and for the Llanowar Elves mainly. So let's go. Okay, definitely want to hit that thing. That thing is a combo piece for sure. That's Voracious Hydra. Yep. In retrospect, oh yeah, I guess because I have a big Walking Ballista, I'm fairly confident that I can take care of a Samwise that gets collected company out. And collected company though in the Samwise and the Vicious Seer can still kind of get us because, yeah, that's pretty brutal actually. But thankfully, we're kind of just gonna go for the jugular. Reminiscent of game 1, just play a bunch of beef sticks, just go bam, and we shall see. Yeah, as you can see, these Lair of the Hydras just become truly gargantuan. We'll just dismember. Okay, clear food token. There we go. Bam. Scry 1. We'll probably just dismember the World token. And they see the writing on the wall, so yeah. Hey. Yep. All right. Match 2, game 1. And hey, we have turn 1 Elvish Mystic into turn 2 either Corsair or Lovestruck Beast. We took a Lovestruck Beast, interestingly enough. I would have thought they'd take the Corsair or the Elvish Mystic, but hey, I'm not going to complain. Okay, collect company, I guess that's why I didn't take the Mystic. Alright, I guess we can play out the Corsair, or maybe not. Yeah, we don't play the Corsair yet, because I'm a little surprised they do this right into my Field of Ruin, because it's kind of obvious that I'm kind of itching to Field of Ruin this. I guess yeah. But they see my Voracious Hydra. I guess they're not used to, I don't blame my opponent for not being used to dealing with Voracious Hydra, but I think if they would have waited, we could have been in kind of trouble. Um, you know, so instead we'll play Corsair. All right, well that is what it is. I think we already knew about that, but anyway, that's what it is. Okay, there goes that card. Some Lair of the Hydra action. Yeah, and believe it or not, we get there. Yeah. Okie dokie. Let's yeah, I mean, hey, this is a keepable hand. Let's see. Inquisition, yeah, of course they take this and yeah, and Lantern of the Lost. Alrighty. Let's go. Oof, we don't have an immediate answer to that, but we do have, I guess we kind of did. Now we have Sylex. That's an answer. Alrighty. So yeah, it's 3/3, but we do have an answer at least, so there's that. We might play out the Corsair just because we really don't want to have it get discarded. Alrighty. Yeah, I think I make a mistake and I mysteriously don't block. I think I was getting distracted with like text again. Like it's just I don't know. So yeah, we'll play this. We'll play it out. Beefcake. It may turn out that we don't really need. Yeah, I think they keep knowing that we don't have anything in our hand. But anyway. I'm surprised they do that. Like, what's... So I think we're going to Sylex, and the reason why is because we don't want them to draw a land to Fatal Push. Ooh, Tasker. So things got interesting. Actually, what I realize now is if I attack with this, no, I can't. Could have played Lantern, but yeah, that's Tarmogoyf. So yeah, let's gain some life off the top and draw a card off the top of our library. That was a surprising showing against Grixis midrange. I mean Golgari midrange as well. They by all metrics they should be the better midrange deck, but against all odds somehow scrappy little budget freak show mono green somehow pulls it off. I'll take it. All right, I just realized I think I forgot to go over the sideboard for last match, but I don't think for the Golgari mid-range match, I don't think I sideboarded any different. Oh no, the Ratchet Bombs. Yeah. So I brought in the Ratchet Bombs, and I think I took out. I still had the Relic there. I mean, I know I brought in the Lantern, and I know I brought in the Ratchet Bombs. I'm trying to think of what I brought out. Oh, you know what I brought out? I think I brought out the Elves. Yeah, I brought out the Elves because I think my thinking was just I need to have a high density of high threat high threat density basically. All right, so yeah, so I hope that helped. All right, let's get to the games here. Yeah, I mean, as we saw last game, sometimes. Oh, but this doesn't have green. I still think we're gonna keep against like if we happen to be up against Tron, for example. But yeah, now things get real. I got Goblin Guide, but thankfully we drew Mazemind Tome. Like I was almost just ready to give up right there and then, but I'm like, well, Mazemind Tome. I guess we'll draw that, right? If we can actually survive long enough and you gain the 4 life, who knows, right? And maybe we can even mess with their mana a little bit while we're at it. Yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah, that's better because again, like a lot of times we just want to make this little human token to chump, and it's doing its duty. Just yeah, put that to the bottom, I guess. And yep. Yeah, we don't care that this can't attack right now. Right now, we just want it to block that Goblin Guide. Yep. And the fact that Lovestruck Beast can turn into a very massive beatstick very quickly at the drop of a hat. I don't know, man. If somehow their hand is clunky, against all odds, we may somehow, man, yeah, we may somehow, you know. Okay, it's making me wish I would have held up a another Field of Ruin to keep them off of white. But you know, I guess I'll draw a card while they're tapped out. Hey, I mean, ugh, Searing Blaze, brutal. Brutal. Okay. But hey, I mean, we are putting ourselves in a position where there is possibilities. What can I say? There's possibilities here. I never said there wasn't possibilities. Yeah, we're definitely playing this. Like, at the end of the day, we don't care about the card draw. We just want to get to this 4 mana. Now any burn spell off the top of the library. We gotta dodge a few turns here, but if we do, we got a lot of life gain coming, so there is that. Put that to the bottom, I think. Put to the bottom, I think. All right. Okay, I guess we're Voracious Hydraing. Yeah, very obviously Voracious Hydraing. Let's go. We're very obviously gonna Elvish Mystic it up. And I'm gonna Lovestruck Beast. I guess we could have Voracious Hydra for 1 more mana, because we're definitely not gonna Dismember. Lesson learned. Alright. Oh man, if we actually survive, I don't know what they're drawing, probably creatures or something, but maybe Monastery Swift Spears, I don't know, but like, this is so good. Oh yeah, we can also just Maze Mine and manipulate the top of our library too, from the scry. Maze Mine and Corsair work so well together. All right, now we can go on the offensive, but we still want to hold back some blockers. And we gain some life, and like, hey, they let it happen. So, might as well hit the, yeah, gain another life, and keep them off of white mana. And somehow, man, we somehow we did it. Somehow we withered that storm, and oof. All right, game 2. I don't think there is anything to sideboard. Oh yeah, I guess we brought in Tear Asunder. I think my thinking was we could deal with Eidolon. Also sometimes they bring in there's a card called Roiling Vortex. So I guess my thought is we can hit that. At the end of the day, this is a good argument. It's better than Relic, but you know I'm not so sure. Especially not so sure why I didn't bring in the black. You know, an argument could be made. I don't know. All right, let's just go. Let's see what. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of a funky hand, but yeah, this is exactly what we need to have happen. We need them to not present creatures. Then maybe we can go nuts. Say that's 3 life we saved from that. So hopefully maybe we tempt them into hitting our creatures as they see us getting so mana screwed. But you know, when we don't block, they're just like, okay, we'll go to the jugular. I think I should have played Corsair. I guess my thinking was, I don't know. I don't know what my thinking was, but anyway. So the good thing is they go for Smash to Smithereens, forgetting that they should probably be waiting for me to respond to me taking it up for 1, and I probably would have. So that was kind of a misplay from them, not gonna lie. A little surprised that they didn't go after the Corsair, but I guess, man, they're so close once again to taking us out, but we live another day. Maybe I shouldn't have done that because of Smash to Smithereens, but Voracious Hydra, alright. Lovestruck Beast, might as well attack. Man, against all odds, are we actually going to be able to somehow, like, I guess they're just drawing all the creatures and none of the burn spells. I mean, we'll take it, but finally we get some lands. Bam, Minigram. Yeah, we're up to 5. That is not to be underestimated. Not gonna lie, I had the victory here, so I'm like, oh man, if I deserve to lose here. What I should have done, what I was kind of intending to do is attack and then, because I was aware that the Ratchet Bomb was going to kill me on Llanowar Elves, but what I forgot to do was wait until I actually attack. I was in the beginning of upkeep step. It's dumb. It's very dumb, but the reality was if they couldn't have killed us earlier, there really wasn't that many draws that would have killed us then. We could just play that and then we don't take the damage. And against all odds, we somehow scrap it out against Burn. We'll take it. Okay. All right, match 4, game 1. Let's hey, this is a keep if I've ever seen one. Good old Elvish Mystic. And I'm not sure what this is. This looks like Murktide, but I think this might be creativity. Yeah, this is creativity, and this is where we're just like, oh, at least we have the 8 fields. See, my thinking here, and maybe this was a mistake, but my thinking was I'm probably gonna need to just beat face extremely quickly. Like I don't know how else I win this matchup. I gotta play to my 1 strength in mono green, don't I? That's my thinking at least. Yeah, so we're gonna Heart's Desire. We're going to attack. I mean, they're already down to 10. And we're going to play another Lovestruck Beast. And then we can play 2 Walking Ballistas to put more 1/1s out. So, I mean, you know, if they don't have creativity, of course they have creativity. But if they didn't have creativity, they don't have creativity. I think that was a mistake. I think they should have actually returned the Lovestruck Beast to my hand. It would have made things way more awkward. So what I fail to realize here, I think, is that I think they make a little token. It is possible we might have had more legs to stand on here if we would have hit the token. I should have hit it. I really should have, because what would have happened is if I hit the token, but you see, what I was worried of is if I hit the token and then they bolted the other Walking Ballista, then my whole attack gets derailed. That was my worry. But in retrospect, I think I had to go for it because then I might have forced them to block with the Goblin token, and then honestly, I still don't know how that really changes much. Like, I think. Yeah, the reality is, yeah, they still had an extra mana to spare, I think, anyway. Anyway. Yeah, the reality is there's probably just no beating this, but forcing them to block with the Shaman token was probably better, but again, it was pretty scary that if they had another Lightning Bolt, they could have just sidestepped the entire attack. Hey, we brought him down to 4. You know, participation trophy. How pathetic. All right, let's see if we fare better in game 2. I don't know if this is correct or not, but we take out the elves. We double up on the lanterns because I think what we're thinking is at least we can try to mitigate Wrenn and 6. But notice in that game they took the win without even needing Wrenn and 6. But at least we're like, hey, at least we can try to put the hurt on Wrenn and 6. At least we can bring in some Ratchet Bombs. At least that gives us a little more ability to try to hit the tokens. Hey, you know, we got to. Yeah, this is a keep. We gotta try what we gotta try, right? Oh, and I also brought in Tear Asunder, apparently. I guess my thinking was I can Tear Asunder the Fables. Well, also, potentially, if I fetch a swamp, I can, did I fetch a swamp? Yeah, I put the swamp in, thank goodness. So, like, yeah, I think my thinking was I can Tear Asunder the Fable, and possibly I could even Tear Asunder for 4 a Archon. That's, you know, I mean, hopefully it doesn't come to that, but I thought, I don't know, there's worse things. We're definitely lanterning. Kind of the entire idea. We could Tear Asunder a Wrenn and 6 if it comes to that. Look, yeah, yeah. I think we're lanterning Losting again. But yeah, Tear Asunder, man, I'm not saying that this makes mono green great or anything, but I am saying that man, it gives our deck it gives our deck good things. Like our deck is definitely the better for it, for sure. You know, it is. I think they just creativity us, and that's just GG. Oh, maybe not quite yet. Okay, they played Teferi. That's a problem in its own right. I guess might as well. The problem is that I have to be a little bit circumspect with these demolition fields because we want to be able to do it one at a time so that we can exile them one at a time. Yeah. There's a black mana in case we need it. I think our thinking is we're going to Demolition Field end of turn. I hate that. Okay, I guess we'll hit that. Kind of it's all the same thing for the most part. And we can relic it away. I think, yeah, I guess Filigree Sylex just makes sense. Thank goodness they didn't put a land in the graveyard. No. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. See, oh, this sucks because what I needed to do is I think I needed a crack in response to the Teferi uptick, and they could have played a token. Oh man, I think I was scrying desperately for a Tear Asunder. This is exactly the kind of situation where Tear Asunder could potentially bail me out, and no other card could, but it didn't happen. Yeah, I forgot about the Teferi making their creativity instant speed. In retrospect, I could have played around it a little bit. Who is to say, man? I might have actually been able to win this one. I don't know. I don't know. I hope I'm not just participating, trophying myself, but it felt like even here in our loss, mono freaking green, maybe there was some potential. I don't know, man. Is it like more manly to just sort of like just think that there was no chance and to like I don't know because like is it like arrogant to like think that you could have won if you played differently, or is it like I don't know, whatever. It does kind of seem like there was some potential to play differently. Could have maybe done a little better. I hope that's not me just making excuses for like just surrendering and saying this deck is terrible. But I mean that doesn't sound like the best way to grow as a person because what I don't know, whatever. All right, match five, game one. Hey, well, we're in the twilight zone of having no green mana on turn one, but again, if we're up against mono green Tron, this doesn't look like mono green Tron. It looks kind of like wall coffers. So we'll see. I mean, the reality is they probably have fatal push, so they probably just deal with this anyway. And there is okay. Unfortunately, we can't cash out our fields because they don't have any non-basics, so that's disappointing. But it is what it is. Okay, we'll do that. What we can do is we can actually use this mana to pump up the walker. I should have done that, and I should have actually dinged them for two. I don't think it ends up making a difference, but on the plus side, we get to put blast on the two at least, so there's that. Alrighty. Get Urborg. Play this. I think we should have just played a Walking Ballista. Just done it. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. We kind of have to go aggro or go home here, I think. Yeah, we have to hit Cabal Coffers. There's no universe in which. Alright, we're going to play Corsair. Invoke Despair. Yeah, so, I mean, at the end of the day, our deck kind of has no chance against Coffers, to be fair. The other decks have a little more of an ability to interact with some of the haymakers that they play, like white, for example, or red. We have the potential to just out card advantage them, but once they start casting Invoke Despairs, yeah, it's kind of just hard to come back from that. Okay, all right, match five, game two, and so what do we bring in? I'm surprised. Yeah, Relic. I don't think we need Relic. I mean, they did show us Cling to Dust, so there is that. But at the end of the day, I think what we really needed was we needed Tear Asunder. That could, for 4 mana, deal with Karn itself, or we can also, I don't know, like, I mean, the main problem is just Invoke Despair, though, which there's not much the deck can do about that. But there's Tear Asunder, and what was the other card that we had? Tear Asunder, Ratchet Bomb. Oh yeah, and Lantern, but yeah, I guess we just took out basically Dismember for Tear Asunder. I guess that's what it is. But then we also brought out Relic. So I'm trying to remember what let me look at the deck again. See, what's weird to me is that I brought in Ratchet Bombs? No. What's weird to me is that I have the lanterns in the sideboard. I have the Ratchet Bombs in the sideboard. Oh, I see what happened. We only brought out 2 relics. So I see. I see what we did. We took out 2 relics for a swamp, and the Kozilek. I think the Kozilek was a mistake. We lose way sooner than that thing comes online. So this one looks like it more potential for, yeah, but then, okay, there's that. At least they can't discard that. We want to just get raw card advantage here if possible. Bam, bam. Probably Fatal Push that. That's fine. Yeah, the main thing I don't like about mono black coffers, though, just between me and you all, is that like what's it called? Invoke Despair is just I thought about Invoke Despair, but it's just so asking to get counterspelled. It's like it's not very mana efficient at all, and yeah. And also, Cabal Coffers is cool and all, but then you can't play cards like Hive of the Eye Tyrant or Castle Lochthwain. I mean, you can, but maybe in lesser numbers. Like, yeah, I don't know. Hard to say. All right. Oof, that was nasty, but at least we have Lair of the Hydra, so we can, bam, bam. And I guess we can crack Relic in a turn. And they're invoking just they're really invoking my despair. I'll tell you that much. We can put that on the top or the bottom. Could Tear Asunder, but also could just hit this for 6. Well, 5, I guess. Well, hitting this for 5 at least. They can't activate it. I think this looks like another Invoke Despair. It's so ridiculous, man. Yeah. Okay. Bam. Okay, I guess. Bam, bam. This is gonna be another Invoke Despair, isn't it? Or just Walking Ballista. Oh, Wrong Engine. Blah, blah. I actually should have Voracious Hydra here. I think I have enough mana. No, but then they would have just killed me with the 2 tokens. See, what sucks is I can Tear Asunder, but what they do is they just wish for it with Karn. I really wish Karn couldn't grab the stuff you already exiled, but if wishes were horses, right? Okay, there they won't call engine just right back where it started. And we're in trouble because, look, I can Voracious Hydra, but look, it's just not going to work out here. And notably, the Death Touch doesn't carry through. So I have to do this, but then just Fatal Push or Shoulder Protect. I realize that if I killed this, it's split up into 2 different cards. I don't think they get the Death Touch of the lifelink because I did this to Fury before, and the Fury First Strike didn't negate the fighting. Instead, I played a Wicked Wolf once, which traded with a Fury, which tells me that the fighting doesn't care about the lifelink of the Death Touch. I don't see why it would, but so it just cares about the power and toughness. But whatever. All right. Disappointing. So my take is the creativity matchup probably is winnable if you play tighter, and maybe make a final change I'll discuss in the post league. But Cable Coffers is the mono black Coffers is fundamentally going to be tougher. Now actually we could play Veil of Summer, and Veil of Summer is definitely one of the unique cards that's so good with green. But actually I have a little plan for this deck as well. I'll go over that in the post league. All right. All right, and with that, we come to the end of this journey. We have the post-league wrap-up. Surprisingly, every single card actually felt very solid. Voracious Hydra, surprisingly, I know this looks like such a jank bulk rare, or bulk mythic, I guess. But it seems so jank. But dang it, man, this card, I think it's safe to say exceeded expectations. Lovestruck Beast did what it was supposed to do. It was a chump blocker for Goblin Guides. I don't think we saw too many Ragamans, but it was a chump blocker for stuff. It was a big beat stick when we needed it to be. I don't know, like that's kind of exactly what I said in the deck tech we were gunning for with this card, and it did exactly that. I can't really complain. Corsair of Kruphix, it gained us card advantage, it gained us life. Sometimes it gained us multiple life with Field Rune, like I said in the deck tech. It didn't die to Lightning Bolt, so it kind of did what I also said. I liked it. Yeah, Dismember killed creatures exactly like it's supposed to. Mazemind Tome was Mazemind Tome, as good as always. It's kind of one of the important cards to keep the card advantage flowing here. The Elvish Mystics, man, they produced mana and also enabled a Lovestruck Beast. Maybe not as often, but they did. I forgot to mention that you can also cast Walking Ballista as a 1/1 to also turn on Lightning Beast, Lovestruck Beast. It's kind of nice little synergies here and there. Yeah, main deck Relic is always nice. So it's really only the sideboard and there of the Hydra, just very, very much a big draw to play a green man land at all. I think I'm calling it. This is the best D&D manland. I do think so. I just think it's hurt by being in the worst color, arguably. I don't know. It's either this or Den of the Bugbear. Den of the Bugbear creating a token is big game, but the flexibility of this card can't be, I think, can't be underestimated. I actually think it's better than Den of the Bugbear, but it's close. It's definitely this and Den of the Bugbear, and the rest are, yeah, not even close. But they're all pretty good though, surprisingly. I mean, I basically play all of them except maybe Cave of the Frost Dragon is the only one. I used to play that, but it's just like I don't have room anymore. And Castle Vantress is just way better. Or Castle, whatever it's called, Castle Ardenvale. I think it's Castle Ardenvale. Yeah, Castle Ardenvale is just kind of better. So that pretty much leaves us to sideboard. Okay, so Tear Asunder. There's no way I'm taking this out. But some thoughts came to me. The main thing is I think you know what I think that the lanterns were cool and all, but I think we do need some help against creativity. And Stonebrain has been there for me with mono red, so so in the future we'll see if this can help shore up the creativity matchup a little bit. Surprisingly, we actually had some legs to stand on. We had some juking potential with some quick Lovestruck Beast beats. We had some possibly if we would have played a little better, finagling with the demolition fields and field of ruins while also playing around the instant speed creativities. Um, yeah, but like at the end of the day, just being able to take creativity out of their deck, and that's pretty much what we're gonna go for, by the way, because because it's just so like what you want because if you take creativity out of the deck, not only do you sidestep the issue of them bringing in other big fat fatties to play around exactly this type of effect if they're only relying on Archon, but also on top of that, you create this situation where, especially with 8 fields, there's a very good chance that they'll end up getting stranded with Archons and possibly other fatties in their hand that are almost impossible to cast. So really, once you name creativity, this has actually consistently been one of my best anti-creativity tools, and might as well play it here. Um, I did think about playing Veil of Summer because obviously Veil of Summer on Invoke Despair is the stuff dreams are made of. Yes, Invoke Despair targets. So yes, you can give them the worst feeling in the world by a Veil of Summering that thing. But at the end of the day, maybe just Stonebraining on that thing, Stonebraining on Karn. Honestly, Stonebraining on Karn might be the main one, just because their deck relies on it so much for actually closing out the game. But secondarily, hitting the Invoke Despair. Um, yeah, I mean the fact that we have like all this card advantage that we can make up for it is definitely nice. It is worth noting that at least Veil of Summer does nothing against Karn, so at least there's that. But yeah, yeah, and actually, you know what? Like a lot of times, if we bring in Veil of Summer, we're probably going to be Veil of Summering, protecting our Corsairs or protecting our Elvish Mystics and Llanowar Elves and stuff. And oh yeah, you know what? I don't know. The funny thing is, Veil of Summer is obviously such a house, but I just don't know that it's at its best in this deck because also a lot of times we're going to need to be able to pay multiple green mana like Corsair, or we're going to have to play a green mana, hold a green mana up, and we just don't have that many green sources, ironically, for a mono green deck. So maybe Stonebrain is just kind of better, and it might give us some legs to take out some of the main things that are big problems for us in mono black coffers. It's not exactly where we want to where we want to be. We want to be in a situation where we kind of outcard advantage them on our own, but we don't. But we at least if we play Stonebrain, we have the ability to take out the cards that do outcard advantage us on their side. Another thing I thought about is like it just seemed a little odd that we only had one black source because there are some matchups where we actually may want to have two for making Dismember not deal any damage even later in the game. I think Burn kind of made me think about that. I don't think I would still have Dismember in the deck at all, but I thought there's decks like Prowess and stuff where there's probably not a lot of downside to just dropping one of the Ratchet Bomb effects and just going up a swamp so that we do have the option if the game goes long enough where we could potentially just take 0 damage off of the Dismembers, which can be very relevant because sometimes they become uncastable. Sometimes they go from being the best card that you can draw to being the worst card later in the game, simply because you're using these to stave off their aggressive beats, Um, and that just got me thinking if I'm playing Ratchet Bomb as a 4 of, and if I'm bringing in another swamp, Even though I can't play this as early because of I don't have like a Copperline Gorge step effect in the main. I guess when I went up another swamp, I mean this could be wrong, but I just thought to myself, maybe Engineer Explosives is just kind of better than Ratchet Bomb, being able to just use it instantly and stuff. Maybe not, but I guess I just thought going up the extra swamp. I still can't hit anything on 3, but a little more consistency to the possibility of maybe just being able to uh, more consistently play it on 2 if that's what we need. And I know Engine Explosives is not super budget, but my thinking is I think you want to pick this up for the mono red Obosh deck, or Obosh-less, mono red. It's just a very, especially for the Saga variants, it's just kind of a good option to have in your arsenal for anti-token, anti-one drop kind of tech. So my thinking is just, there's a very good chance you already have this in your collection. If not, whatever, it is what it is. But cards that are pretty universally good and are kind of likely to be in your collection, I think I can make an exception on the whole budget thing. And regardless, if you don't have it, this is so easily just replaced by a Ratchet Bomb. Um, but yeah, probably it is better if you could afford it. The rest of the deck, though, I mean, probably we'll still have to see. I mean, but really surprisingly, there's just honestly not that much I would change, even if we could add more money to it, which we can actually. But I don't really want to sink more money into it. And honestly, like I'm just impressed that I was able to go 3-2 with this deck. I think that food opponent was getting a little salty, and I think they were like, man, is this really happening to me? I just said, look, man, I just hope I can at least go 3-2 with this deck, and hey, I did. So can't complain, I guess. That's at least I was happy with that. Would have been nice to go 4-1, but hey, I managed to finish with a winning record with this deck. So I strangely enough, it feels like a win to me. Sure if there was anything else I wanted to say before I broke, but I guess once again, thanks to the patron, the Savage Ooze, Patrick Weissman, Jules Varro, Kevin Rubach, S. Robertson, Sophus Garrett, Erwin Lopez, Stanley Franks, Kyle Walters, Mark, Zequel Smith, Lucas Frank, Andrew Watson, Michael Patton. Thank you everybody so much. Y'all have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed. Now I have all the colors, and I don't know how frequently I'm going to play this deck, but it's available. Um, at least it rounds out the colors, and anyway. All right, take care, everybody, and if you haven't already, you made it this far. You must like the content. Otherwise, why did you get this far? So please hit that subscribe button. Might as well hit the like button on your way out. That means the world to me. Take care.